All right, we got a speech happening tonight, 8 o'clock, and you will hear the President of the United States address the nation right here on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, and streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. So what's going to come out of tonight? Well, what I believe the President of the United States is going to do is he is going to address the nation and basically talk about their wins from the last year. He's going to pitch the American people on this idea that we're not all the way there yet, but we're getting closer. Now, this has always been the strategy for this administration. Basically, flood the zone, get as much information out on their side as they possibly can, and see if it cuts in their favor. It's a week before Christmas. Is this what people want to hear? I don't know. You tell me at 913-408-7957. If the president can get out there tonight, show some empathy, not do the whole the economy is an A plus. No, don't want to do that. If we can show some empathy for people who are still feeling the pinch of what has been a half decade of pain for millions of middle and lower class Americans in particular. And I say that because we've kind of created this K-shaped economy. If you do not own assets in this country, whether it's a home, whether it's investments, you have fallen way behind. Because the only thing that's really gone up and beat inflation has been housing and has been the stock market. And if people have not been invested in that and have not been able to ride that, then their pain is felt even more. That's just a reality. So the president has to be cognizant of that. If it was all about the stock market, well, Kamala Harris might be there right now because the markets did all right under Joe. But middle class folks in particular, regular people, still felt a lot of pain. And you haven't really seen that relief just yet. So Caroline Leavitt spoke yesterday. Here's what she said on Fox about what to expect tonight.
We greatly look forward to President Trump addressing the nation tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern. I hope your audience will tune in, and Americans across the country will tune in to hear from their president as well about the historic accomplishments that he has garnered for our country over the past year. If you look at the security of our border, if you look at stopping Joe Biden's inflation right in its tracks, bringing down gas prices to the lowest level in 5 years, President Trump will be talking about what's to come. The best is truly yet to come, as he often says. And so he'll be addressing the country about all of his historic accomplishments over the past year and maybe teasing some policy that will be coming in the new year as well as we head into this Christmas season.
All right, so that was Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary on Fox News yesterday. So it's clearly going to be a rah-rah speech, which whatever. I mean, that's fine. There are certainly accomplishments of this administration that the media has zero interest in covering and following and sharing with the American people. They do love suddenly talking about the affordability crisis when Pops was in there. They had zero interest in doing that.
Come on, man.
So I don't blame them for wanting to get their message out. I really don't, John.
And they were even taunting those that voted for Trump because we wanted to lower the price of our eggs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That taunt?
Yes. Even though, of course, the egg crisis was not a Trump or a Biden thing.
It was a bird flu.
Yes, but hey, let's blame it on Trump just because. Mm-hmm. That's what they did. And they're doing that now. Suddenly, affordability. When Trump says, the affordability crisis is a hoax. Well, no, it's not, but I understand what he's going for there when he talks about that. What he's saying is that the media coverage of it, and that's why sometimes his words do not come out in the best way possible, as we've seen this week, but he doesn't necessarily sell this in the right way. The way the media now cares about affordability in a way they didn't over the last 4 years is very evident. It doesn't change the fact that there's still a lot of economic pain being felt out there by tens of millions of Americans. Both those things can be true at the same time. Now, we did yesterday get some jobs numbers, and the headline that you may have seen yesterday is U.S. unemployment rose in November despite jobs gains. 4.6% rate is the highest in more than 4 years. Showed 64,000 jobs were gained in November, 105,000 jobs lost in October. Job losses in June, August, and October mean the U.S. economy has shed jobs in 3 out of the past 6 months. Now, this is not me spinning anything, but let me explain why this doesn't bother me. The reason it doesn't bother me is because federal employment is now at its lowest levels since 2014. The federal government has shed 271,000 jobs since Donald Trump took office. Think about that. If you take out the Postal Service, jobs in the federal government fell in November to their lowest levels since January of 2015, almost 11 years ago. There are fewer federal bureaucrats today than at any point during the Trump administration 1.0. I'm looking at the data right here in front of me from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So once again, this first year, if this administration, whoever's writing the speech tonight, who was that guy that Trump was ragging on last week? Remember that guy he was talking about when he was in Pennsylvania, his speechwriter? And he's like, yeah, this guy writes great speeches. I barely read a word of them when I'm out there on the campaign trail. I mean, he does a great job. He's a smart young man, and I basically throw his speeches out the window and barely read the teleprompter. I forget that guy's name.
Ross, where is he?
Yeah,
Ross.
It was Ross. That's right, Ross something. We'll find him during the break.
Ross Worthington.
There you go. That sounds like a speechwriter, doesn't it? Ross Worthington. Man, if he's not a speechwriter, he's an accountant. He's one of those two.
Well, there's probably an initial before Ross. That's how you do it, right? L. Ross.
J. Ross Worthington.
Yeah, J.
Oh, my gosh. So this first year is about really just resetting everything. Because when we got some of those frothy jobs numbers during the Biden years, we would talk about it here on the show. I would go into the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and you would see the federal government, or just government by and large, was always in the top 3 of employment. It was unsustainable. Using the taxpayer and the government to goose your jobs numbers was something that had to come to an end. And you're seeing that happen. So when these jobs numbers maybe don't come out as big as they have been in the past, well, you know what? We're shedding federal government workers. That's a good thing. We're moving things into the private sector. That's a good thing. And this was the best November on record. I'm also looking at this from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The best November on record for jobs among native-born Americans. That's pretty damn good, is it not? You have seen native-born Americans continue to gain jobs and get the bulk of the new jobs. And there are a number of people with multiple jobs right now. September to November, more folks have picked up some part-time work. That's also true as well. But you are seeing native-born Americans get most of the gains in this current economy. And you're seeing the private sector see most of the gains while the public sector is shedding jobs, at least at the federal level. So there is good underneath the surface here. And I hope that this kind of stuff comes out tonight in the speech from the President of the United States. It will air at 8 p.m. You will hear it right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Set that preset right now if you're driving around tonight. You can listen to President Trump address the nation 8 p.m. right here on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, there are more people speaking out against the most controversial thing on the docket in Kansas City. Who now? We'll tell you next on KCMO. Another day and another, in this case, individual. But I think it's a notable individual with a respectable background who is speaking out against the Royals going to Overland Park. You have Channel 9 KMBC talking to doctors who, of course, have done plenty of work in the Kansas City area, notably down the street from 119th and Menorah, who are saying, hey, if the Royals come here, we are going to have a problem with ingress and egress at the hospital. And guess what? When you're talking about life and death situations, that is not good for anybody. Channel 9.
Just up the street from us is 119th and Knoll, where the Royals are thinking about building that new ballpark. But just a few hundred yards away is the emergency entrance to Menorah Medical Center. Potentially life-saving trips like these that retired Overland Park Regional Medical Center Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Ramito worries could be slowed down if the Royals move to town.
If we add potentially number of people that have ingress and egress to the stadium, that's going to slow down the ingress and egress for our medical personnel.
Overland Park resident Amanda Palin shares Dr. Amito's concerns, saying her family has been rushed to emergency rooms at these hospitals before.
And every time we see emergency vehicles coming up and down Knoll or stuck on the highway, you know, your heart just jumps into your throat because you know someone's life is at stake.
Palin and Dr. Ramito hope decision makers behind a potential Royals move hear their concerns about traffic adding precious minutes to emergency response times.
It could be life and death one way or the other.
In a statement, Overland Park Mayor Kirk Skoog says there's been no formal request by the Royals to the city of Overland Park. He says if there is one, they have a very thorough review process.
Stop. Make it stop. My gosh.
I'm getting pissed now.
I mean, I got to listen to that final line. That's Channel 9 KMBC. I've got no issue at all with what the reporter said there. I mean, that's totally fine. But when you've got that line again, which we've heard over and over and over from the mayor's office, well, if the Royals want to be here, we have a very serious review process. Yes, because if the state of Kansas and the LLC says we approve the star bond for the Royals to go to Overland Park, the Overland Park City Council is going to say no. I mean, how stupid do they think we are? Seriously. You really think that the City Council in Overland Park is going to get in the way of the Royals and the state of Kansas if they approve a deal by the end of the year? You've got to be kidding me. They really do think we're dumb. That's the only conclusion I can come to when you give a statement and an answer like that. As if somehow they're the ones who are going to be like, you know, we reviewed this and we actually don't want it here. Oh, come on, guys. But it's amazing. You really can't get a lot of people on the record right now as to whether or not they think this is a good idea. Same thing with state lawmakers. I mean, I saw some prominent people, Republicans and Democrats, in the Senate, in the House, in Topeka, getting interviewed yesterday by John Ketz, Fox 4. And, you know, whether it's Chris Croft, House Majority Leader, or Dinah Sykes, who's a senator out of Lenexa, they're all like, well, you know, we don't know. We've got to look at the deal and make a decision. It's like these are Johnson County people, and they don't have the backbone to stand up to it, at least not yet. Maybe they will if this thing does come to fruition and this deal does come in front of them on the Kansas side of the state line. But, boy, they are playing classic politicians. So it's not just me ragging on Overland Park. I mean, it's the same thing at the state level. You can't get these folks on the record as to whether or not they think Major League Baseball is a fit in Overland Park, specifically at 119th and Knoll. And now you've got doctors being like, yeah, you know, we're going to have a problem here at the hospital. Now, from what I'm hearing, Menorah may be coming out with a statement in the not-too-distant future, also coming out against the stadium. I'm hearing that could be coming soon. I don't know if that's today, tomorrow, this week, but I heard that could be coming as well, John.
I'll have to admit I didn't quite hear the piece. But as you think on 435, we've got St. Joseph there at State Line, right? Did they mention all four?
Yes.
St. Joe, and then you've got Children's Mercy, and then Menorah sets back off the road a little here to the south, and then you go on down to Overland Park Regional at Quivira.
Yeah, and you've got St. Luke's down the street too.
Right,
so
right. There
you
go.
got a lot of
that
hospitals.
would rely on 435 through there, and then going south on Road Knoll or Metcalf.
Absolutely. So it's not just about Menorah's obviously right there. But heck, I mean, my kids have been to Children's Mercy a bunch. We'll try to make sure they don't get sick during the 81 baseball games a year, you know? I'll try to plan my 4- and 7-year-old sickness around the Royals baseball schedule. That should go well. That'll be a home run, no pun intended. It's like that's the stuff that no one's the team is certainly not thinking about. And you want to talk about what's in the best interest of the community and the residents? Like, this is it right here. This is it. Is it good for people trying to get to a hospital? If the answer is no, or I'm not sure, or I don't think so, then you have your answer. You've got it. That's it. But they just can't help themselves. They think this is a legacy play. They think this is somehow something, I don't know, maybe it's just about them enjoying baseball games and hanging out in suites and, rubbing elbows with billionaire owners. I don't know, maybe that's what it's about to them. And to me, it's not personal. I mean, I think John Sherman's a good guy. I just don't think his baseball stadium belongs in Overland Park. That's all. I think he got a great option in North Kansas City. I think there are other parts of town that would be much better suited. And it's not, right down the road here. Just doesn't make any sense. So you're getting more and more people finally willing to talk to the media, something I've been saying for the better part of 6 months, that people in this part of town in particular need to speak up. Text line is 913-408-7957. This is how you can join us here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Pete, have you never been to a city with a downtown stadium? What do you think lights and sirens are? Traffic can be at a standstill, and traffic will part like the Red Sea for an emergency vehicle. Okay, yes, we've all seen that happen. Does it expedite the time of an emergency vehicle getting to a hospital if you have to part the sea, to use this texter's words, to go to Menorah?
You're parting a pond downtown, a couple of blocks, not several miles down the interstate.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Seriously. Coming out of a game, yeah, you got a much different situation going on there. Absolutely right. All right, so I guess today we may end up hearing from Travis Kelce. He didn't talk to the media after the game on Sunday when the Chiefs, of course, saw their postseason hopes come to an end with that loss to the LA Chargers. And the New Heights podcast is where Travis Kelce has decided to comment every week on games. Only when they lose, though. That's, to be clear. He'll talk to the media after wins. When they lose, he'll go on his podcast, and his brother will set him up, and he'll answer a question or two, and that'll be Travis's statement on the game from Sunday. So I guess we'll have Mark on that today, and we'll make sure that if we get anything from Travis that's playable on the air, because he likes to curse so much, we'll bring it to you here on KCMO Talk Radio. Mark, how much did you win last night? We had the company holiday party, and Mark always comes out a big winner. What'd you win last night there, Mark?
Oh, I thought you were talking about my KU parlay that hit. $75. Let's go.
Did you hit a KU parlay?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No,
good friends over at FanDuel always taking care of Mark on the KU parlays.
Oh, yeah. That was great. But
even without Darren Peterson, you did okay, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Went home with a popcorn tin, a bourbon, and a wine. So let's go.
And what about your Hy-Vee gift card?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the Hy-Vee. $25 in Hy-Vee gift card, too. So
man.
It was a nice night for me.
You made out like a bandit at the holiday party.
Yeah, I was sitting at his table. I elbowed my wife. I looked on Mark's over there scrolling on the phone. I'm going, I know he's looking at the scores.
I had to get the parlay in.
So you hit a KU parlay. You had a good night at the holiday party. You should have seen Johnny. He was dressed to the nines. And you go home with a whiskey, a wine, and popcorn. You're doing okay.
Luckily, my wife went. She's more popular than I am.
Oh,
so
way
I
more.
had to bring her to get in.
Yeah. We had a good time last night. News in 2 minutes coming up next. The debacle at Brown worsens. So we're now on our fifth day of a manhunt for the shooter at Brown University from Saturday night. Fifth day. And the only thing that we seem to be learning is how incompetent local officials and local politicians and local police officers are in Providence, Rhode Island. That seems to be the biggest takeaway here. So this thing continues to get worse by the day because obviously with each passing day, it gets harder to figure out who this individual is. Authorities are hunting for the perpetrator of the deadly mass shooting at Brown University. They did release a new enhanced photo yesterday. And they have asked the public to pay attention to body movements, posture, and other patterns to help identify the person of interest. A person of interest was detained earlier in the week. That person was cleared on Sunday, I believe it was, day after the shooting. But the early focus on that person may have delayed the investigation. Of course, the shooting left 2 students dead, 9 others injured at the Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island, where classes and exams have been canceled. So we're sitting here trying to figure out, okay, where's the investigation? And every time these local officials talk, they look worse and worse and worse. Here's the Providence police chief talking yesterday at a press conference. And this guy, he is way in over his head. Oscar Perez is his name. And he doesn't know up from down, this guy.
So the video that we showed you came from inside the building, and that's all we had at the moment. That's all we have at this moment. Correct.
Inside the building, though?
I'm sorry?
It's from the outside of the building.
From the
I'm sorry.
outside, so do you have video from
Yes.
inside the engineering
Both
building?
inside and outside. I'm sorry, just outside. That's all we have, not inside. No. I'm sorry, just outside.
Are they going to be released anytime soon, the ones from inside the building?
That was released already. That was the outside of the building. We already released that.
Yeah, let me just jump here and clarify. Okay, so there is for those of you who've been with us before, and I understand not all of you have been, there is video inside the building. There are cameras inside the building.
They have this guy come in on the back end and be like, let me clear this up for everybody. Are the cameras inside? Are they outside? Are they inside? Or are they outside? The police chief, he doesn't know up from down. He's got guys yelling at him. And then that guy comes in at the end, swoops in, and is like, all right, let me clarify this for everybody because our police chief is an absolute buffoon. I mean, Providence, Rhode Island is not some tiny town. This is not your small college town where maybe the police chief, who's in charge of a national manhunt at this point, is weighing over his head. Providence, Rhode Island's like a pretty major community. It's not Kansas City, but, it's a major metropolitan area. And this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And then it gets worse. Here's also part of this press conference yesterday as the folks at Brown are still trying to figure out who the shooter is, what happened, where this guy is. They need the public's help. And once again, they can't get their story straight. Take a listen.
The walk, do you believe that Brown had the precautions and safety measures in place before the shooting that were appropriate and necessary?
I do. And in fact, I'm glad you mentioned the sirens because I think there's been some misinformation about that. We have 2 security systems that we can activate in a time of an emergency. One is a system that sends out text messages, phone calls, emails. And it was activated within minutes of the incident. Those messages went out to 20,000 individuals. So all alerts. We also have a system of sirens. There are 3 sirens placed across campus. Those get activated when there is a broad-scale emergency and we want people to rush into buildings. In the case of an active shooter, activating that system could have caused people to rush into Barris and Hawley. So that's not a system that we would ever use in the case of an active shooter. So,
just to follow up, it does say on the website when it was launched that it is for an active shooter.
it depends on the circumstances and where the active shooter would be, but you don't want to ever get people rushing into buildings that might be the site of an active shooting.
Stop this. Oh, my gosh. That was the Brown University president. The reporter says, why didn't the siren emergency system go off? And the president says, that's not a system we would ever use in the case of an active shooter. And the reporter goes, on the website, it literally says that this system is for an active shooter. And the Brown University president comes back and says, well, it depends on the circumstances. Wow. These people are clueless, John.
I felt like she was describing civil defense, what we call civil defense around here. Yeah, you got the sirens, and they go off, and you don't use them for shooters, and they tell people to go inside and seek shelter.
Yeah.
I don't like, I'm sure you got civil defense things, but that's not what they're talking about.
No. Right? And the reporter's like, you literally have this system, And on your own website, it says that the siren emergency system will go off for an active shooter, and it didn't go off. I mean, every step of the way. You are seeing one of the most prominent institutions in this country, at least what we perceived as one of the most prominent institutions in this country, look like a horse's rear end. That's what they look like here. Boy, it's no wonder that smart kids in the Northeast are bailing on Ivy Leagues and being like, I'm going to SEC schools. Okay, I'll look at Georgia. I'll look at Tennessee. I'll look at the University of Florida. And we talked about that story a couple of weeks back where a lot of well-to-do, smart kids who have great grades in places like New York and Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island and Pennsylvania and New Jersey, they're like, yeah, I don't want to go to an Ivy League school. Part of it is the politics, and part of it is they want to watch football and have a good time. And culturally, they'd rather be in the SEC. And now you see the way that Brown has handled this debacle, and it's like, man, they may have a $10 billion endowment. You may have to get a 1550 on your SAT to go to this place, but I'm out. I want no part of this. These people are clueless when it comes to common sense. They're bureaucrats. That's what they are. They know higher education and not much else. Now, this happened yesterday as well. Authorities are investigating the death of an MIT professor, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, another, fancy, ritzy, top-of-the-line school up in New England, after he was found fatally shot inside his Boston area apartment earlier this week. 47-year-old Nuno F.G. Loureiro died at the hospital yesterday morning after being shot Monday night inside his apartment in Brookline, Massachusetts. Officers with the Brookline Police Department arrived at the 3-story apartment building after receiving reports of a man shot at his home. The professor was pronounced dead yesterday morning. So this is not getting as much attention as what happened at Brown. And there's no evidence to suggest that these two are related in any way. But boy, when you've got Brown being shot up, then you've got this MIT professor also getting killed at his own home. There's some belief that this professor was very much pro-Israel, and that could have something to do with it. We know that the professor at Brown, whose classroom got shot up, he was someone who was a Jewish man himself. So we're sitting here in the middle of Hanukkah, and there's some belief that these things could be tied into anti-Semitism, but we have not heard that yet from officials just yet. 913-408-7957. Independence, that's where John is. Hey, John, good morning.
Good morning. I tell you what, I think they probably know everything there is to know about this guy that shot up that place in Providence. They just don't want that information being released because it goes against their narrative.
Well, listen, you might be right about that. There are reports and there are witnesses who are saying that the shooter yelled Allah Akbar when he shot up the classroom, and officials right now are not confirming or denying that, and that is leading people to go down, I don't want to call it a rabbit hole, but basically they're coming to their own conclusions, I think fairly so, as this investigation has been botched from the get-go.
I think what it boils down to is that the narrative, they hope and pray that it was some MAGA guy going nuts. That's every shooting that happens, they always think, well, it's a MAGA guy, and that's what the news and the press reports right away. But it always turns out to be wrong, and when the truth comes out, it's just another a failure of the wokery that's running all these institutions around the country.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is this. I think you've got to search far and wide at Brown and at Providence in general to find anyone who might identify as MAGA. But to your point, and it's a good one there, John, thanks for making the call, there's no doubt this is not shaping up to be a story that will fit the mainstream media's narrative. I would agree that's not how it's looking right now. Now, out of the gates, listen, I think that actually CNN did a very good job. I was watching a lot of cable news over the weekend, and CNN was on the Brown story more than any of the other cable news outlets, and they were doing a pretty good job just reporting. I will give them that. There's no doubt about it. But as this thing stretches into almost a week now, and things do not look like they're stacking up in favor of what you would consider a media narrative that fits what they want to be true, yeah, they may back off this thing a hair. No doubt about it. Oh, the milk's coming back. I see what you did there, Mark. Good morning, 721. Mark's still partying after the company holiday party last night. He's just coming down from what was a 12-hour bender for this guy. But don't worry, he's going to make it. I'm keeping a close eye on him in there on the other side of the glass. You feeling okay there, Mark? I mean, this guy, he cleaned up last night at the holiday party. He was winning popcorn and whiskey and Hy-Vee gift cards and the whole thing.
The only thing I was missing was whole milk.
I know. Well, I'll hook you up with some whole milk. So whole milk is making a comeback after a 15-year ban in U.S. schools. I love it. Woo! So this law passed Congress this week and is now going to the president's desk. Whole milk coming back after a 15-year absence to the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. The legislation comes after schools banned whole milk back in 2010 under changes to the school lunch program initiated by former First Lady Michelle Obama. The bill saw bipartisan support in Congress, reflecting a significant shift back to promoting whole milk for kids. Now, who kickstarted this thing? Our own Roger Marshall right here in the state of Kansas. He introduced the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act 2 years ago, emphasizing the need for children to receive essential nutrients. According to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, nearly 90% of Americans do not meet their daily dairy intake recommendations, and whole milk is recognized as an excellent source of calcium and vitamin D. So think about this. Here's the background here. Whole milk was the primary milk offered in schools when milk was first introduced to lunch programs in 1946. This continued for 30 years until what happened? Health concerns over fat content prompted schools to introduce 1% and skim milk in the 1970s. The 2010 removal of whole milk from school menus aligned with these health goals. But recent legislation marks a return to the original offerings. So this is smart. This is good. The science has changed, right? Whenever I would hear like settled science, it's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as settled science. Science is always changing. People would use that phrase during COVID all the time, right? We'd have Fauci out there. And he would talk about the settled science. No, there is no settled science. It's always evolving. You get new information. It changes. And it was this push over the last generation or so going against like fat, right? Can't have whole milk, got to have skim milk. And I think it was driven by some of the big food conglomerates trying to get you hooked on like everything being low fat. And then it was like, well, actually, fat's not all that bad. And sodium's actually not all that bad either. Salt's not all that bad for you. There was a big push against, salt. And suddenly it was like, wait, this stuff actually, whole foods actually are good for you. Go figure. Kids on whole milk. Kids are getting fatter than ever, right? But we've been on this skim milk kick for the last 15 years in schools. Maybe it's not about that. Not that this is magically going to make kids like healthier tomorrow. We've got other major problems. Kids aren't moving as much. I give Michelle Obama this. She was wrong on the skim milk thing, but she was right on the Play 60 deal, getting kids out there, getting them moving, trying to make school lunches a little healthier. I'm not opposed to a lot of what she was trying to do. It just so happened the skim milk deal was a raw deal. So I am thrilled about this, and we got to give credit to our guy, Roger Marshall. He's had a tough week. He's trying to get this new health care bill passed. Chiefs are down. His flags were at half-mast on Monday, is what he told us here on KCMO Talk Radio. But Doc Marshall getting a big win on behalf of all Kansans and the American people. Now, tonight at 8 o'clock, the President of the United States is going to address the nation. And he is going to talk about, if you're reading between the lines here on what's been said so far, he is going to talk about what he believes to be the wins of his first 11 months in office, and he will preview what's to come in 2026. And to me, it's all about how he approaches this. If he goes on to say this is the greatest 11 months that you've ever seen in the history of any presidency, people are going to tune out real fast. They are going to roll their eyes. They're going to say, dude, I'm just trying to get Christmas gifts by next week. I'm getting squeezed here. I don't want to hear about it. I'm exhausted. I don't. If he lays the foundation and says, this is what we walked into, there still is economic pain, but here's why we are confident in our plan, people are going to say, okay, that's relatable. I'm good with that. I can listen to that. That's honest. That's a fair analysis. We'll give you a little more time. If he takes the latter approach on this thing tonight, he's going to be A-okay. It will be received well by the American people. If it's, this is the most amazing year you've ever seen in the history of any White House, and boy, it could not have gone better, and we've got an A++++++++++ economy, it's just, people are going to be like, dude, I'm exhausted, please. I don't want to hear it. I'm getting squeezed. We got Christmas around the corner. I'm just trying to lay the foundation for 26. That's not what I want to hear. So I hope that there is relatability tonight. I hope that there's a little bit of empathy tonight, honesty, acknowledgement of what tens of millions of Americans have been through, not just the last 11 months, but the last several years. That's something as well that just has to be acknowledged. And what do we have here? Is this some breaking news we've got here? Mark, what do we have going on? What is this?
I don't think the president will talk about this tonight, but maybe he will. It looks like Melania Trump is coming out with a new movie. Oh, that's the breaking news.
January 30th of next year. Is he going to give a shout-out to Melania's movie?
He's got to, right?
He's got to give Melania the shout-out. I mean, if he's trying to score some points there back at the house.
In prime time, perfect time to do it.
Perfect timing. Melania's great movie coming out next month, January 30th of 2026. All right, I'll mark my calendar. We'll see if it makes the speech tonight. And you can listen to it right here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. It will air at 8 p.m. right here on KCMO. There you go. Well, you know there are going to be people trying to Airbnb their homes next summer with the World Cup, of course, coming here. That's going to be late June into the first half of July is when we had those group stage matches. You've got round of 32 game, and then it all wraps up with a quarterfinal game. I believe that is on July the 11th. Saturday is when that quarterfinal matchup is going to happen out at Arrowhead Stadium. So already I was looking at Airbnb this morning because last night it came up actually at our holiday party. Keithman said he knew didn't know the people, but there was some crazy listing at like 10 or 20 grand a night for some massive mansion up in the Northland to try to squeeze people ahead of the World Cup next summer. So we've got this going on in Riverside. Fox 4 reporting last night, the Riverside Board of Aldermen reviewed an ordinance proposing regulations for short-term rental properties during their meeting last night. The ordinance aims to set safety standards and create a registration process for short-term rental properties. The Riverside Board of Aldermen did not vote on the ordinance, but they plan to revisit it at their next board meeting in January. So I'm thinking here, okay, I'm not opposed to this, but then all it seems like they're considering to me in Riverside is figuring out a way to get their hands on some of the money. That's it. Am I wrong here, John? That's my read on the story.
You are not, sir.
Okay. So here's what they are proposing. They would require a permit for all short-term rentals. Additionally, it includes a tourism tax requiring operators of short-term rental properties to pay the tax in the same manner as hotels and motels. The goal in Riverside is to establish reasonable rules while allowing property owners to operate and benefit financially. So now it's like we're from the government and we're here to help.
Exactly.
Right? What is it? The 9 most dangerous words or whatever Reagan said? 7, 9, whatever it might be. It's like, no. You guys just want your take. You guys are just realizing, whoa, some people are going to make a lot of money doing this next summer. We better figure out how to get ourselves in on this and cut some dollars for ourselves. And we'll do it under the guise of we want to make sure it's a smooth process. We want to make sure everyone's abiding by the rules. So we're going to have basically a permit that allows us to then take money from the homeowners who already are doing this, probably because many of them are getting squeezed on their property taxes up north.
Yeah, no, you see, we're going to let you take your private property that you pay taxes on. We're going to let you do what you want with it for a small fee.
Yeah, after you pay us, after we get our cut. It's just disgusting. I know, and something similar came out of Kansas City last year. But you know what? Kansas City actually did the opposite, as I recall. Kansas City actually lowered its standards and cut some of the red tape to allow short-term rentals next summer, which, I'll give credit where it's due. Kansas City's going in the opposite direction, but it's also admitting that a lot of the red tape they have around these short-term rentals are just a scam for the government to make a few bucks anyway. But Riverside's like, boy, we better get in on this World Cup thing. This could be kind of beneficial for us. It's like, come on, guys, we could all see what you're doing here. It's very transparent what you've got going on. So I hope that they don't do anything with this, because all it is a way for Riverside to try to make a few bucks ahead of the World Cup coming up next summer. So, we'll see. I was looking at Airbnb listings this morning just to see where things were at. There were not as many, and I looked it up for like the end of June next year. There were not as many as I thought there were going to be out there. I mean, they're scattered around the metro, and maybe it's still early, so people are going to wait because you got to go somewhere. I mean, if you got like kids, where are you going to go, right? You're going to rent out it sounds great. I'm going to rent out my house and pay for my property taxes for the year over like a 2-week period. And go where? And do what? I mean, could you imagine, Mark, taking the girls? What, are you going to live in a hotel for a couple of weeks next June?
Well, and all the hotels will be full probably, too.
That's a good point.
So, yeah. Or increased prices.
Yes. So by the time you figure out where you're going to go and what the cost is going to be to go somewhere else, how much money are you really making in this whole thing?
You come back to the smell of burned goat in your house, too.
And say, Heidi and the girls can go up to Iowa. I'll just sleep here.
Yeah. You could use my office, Mark, if you really want. I'll get you an air mattress or something in there, okay? Just don't have it smelling when I come in the morning, all right? Put on some deodorant. That's my only ask.
I can do that.
All right, good. And you can use my office. I'll let you use it if you really want to set that up, all right? Girls, go up to see the in-laws in Iowa, and Mark will sleep in my office. There you go. We're all set. And then you got to give me a couple of winning parlays. That's the only thing I want in return. We got a deal?
I can do that.
All right. Good. Very good. 913-408-7957. There we go on the text line. Pete, you can rent out the house and then go down to Ottawa and get in a hotel. There we go. We're tying everything together this morning here on KCMO.
Establish a residence, a P.O. box.
Yes. That's outstanding. Well done. Very nice job. I like that. Now, in the meantime, if you didn't see this, US 169 downtown is shut down northbound up by the downtown airport. Missouri Department of Transportation announcing that this portion of US Route 169 downtown will be closed until further notice for an urgent evaluation. Here's what happened yesterday afternoon. MoDOT found major structural issues with the railroad bridge just north of the airport, prompting the closure of northbound US 169 in that area. So now they've got to bring in some of the big dogs and figure out what exactly needs to be done, and they have to do further evaluation. What could possibly go wrong? So it's going to be a mess down that way. Now, did I see, John, that they're going to be closed potentially until the summertime on this?
Well, that's the situation. They're working down there by the Buck O'Neill Bridge anyway, and they've been working on stuff. And so this was going to get replaced, but they were going to wait until July after the World Cup.
Wow.
But it looks like the issues now have forced their hand.
Okay.
And so some northbound traffic is kind of squeezing by, and it does not affect southbound traffic if you come that way when you're coming back. But going up north there, it'll squeeze you by, and a couple of ramps are closed. All the Richards Road ramps are closed off 169. I think that takes you around the airport. And then the I-35 ramp that goes by there is going to be closed right now. So that may be the biggest issue.
Gosh, they better get that figured out by the World Cup next year. If not, that's going to be a total mess. And they'll be like, just ride the streetcar. No. I'll just take a bus. No, I think I'll pass on that too, guys. Sorry. I'll skip out on that one. All right. Well, that's something to note. If you're driving around that part of town, that is going to be a headache for the foreseeable future. Scheduled to be replaced, as you know, this summer after the World Cup, but now it looks like they got to fix it potentially as soon as possible.
It's closed now, so they were going to close it then. So
yeah.
Now it's already done.
So it's done, and we'll see how long they end up being shut down for. We got some news yesterday, and everyone's looking at the headline here. Unemployment rose in November, 4.6%, highest in more than 4 years. Now, of course, you want low unemployment, but there's a couple of things at play here. When unemployment goes up, that can also mean that more people are looking for work. If you are out of the labor force for like 6 months, you don't count against the unemployment rate. The minute you start looking for work again, if you're out of work, you count as suddenly unemployed. So it could be a good sign that you have people who are looking for work. And they're out there and they're saying, hey, can I get a job? Can I get out there into the labor market? Is there more optimism out there? It's just something to consider. So yesterday, government showed 64,000 jobs were gained in November. That beat the expectations, but the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.6%, the highest in over 4 years. Why might that be? Well, look at this. Federal employment is now at the lowest level since 2014. Down by 271,000 jobs since President Trump took office. That's amazing.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
I saw the chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I got aroused. We were at over 3 million federal workers at the start of the year. We're now down to 271,000. That's a 300,000 number change in federal workers. That's the kind of stuff I love to see. Not because I want people out of work, but because for the last 4 years, we'd get these big rosy jobs numbers, and every single month I'd break this down with you. And what would it show? It would show that the government was one of the top 3 employers month after month after month. Eventually, you're running out of private sector money to give people jobs in the public sector. Like, it was unsustainable. So being down almost 300,000 jobs in the federal government in 11 months is fantastic, and hopefully that will lead in part to a more robust private sector economy. John?
Yeah, since the government doesn't just produce widgets to pay its employees, you could think of yourself as a taxpayer as a board member.
Yeah.
You just got some great news there at the employment numbers.
Exactly right. Now, here's what else we've got here. The number of native-born Americans with jobs is up 2.6 million over the last 12 months, while the number of foreign-born workers employed saw a slight decline. All the net job growth this year has gone to Americans. This was also the best November on record for jobs among native-born Americans, and also a record high on a non-seasonally adjusted basis. That's fantastic news. I'm not sitting here telling you it's all roses. I'm not sitting here and telling you that the economy still doesn't have issues and people are still struggling. I get it.
You still poor, broke, busted, and disgusted.
No, that's not fair. I'm just saying, I understand there's pain out there. I get it. And I'm not telling you the economy is an A quadruple plus or anything like that. But if the president wants to knock it out of the park tonight with this address to the nation that he's got at 8 p.m. that's going to air right here on KCMO Talk Radio, this is the kind of stuff he's got to highlight. It can't all be just like big picture, everything's great and amazing and the best, and no one's ever seen anything like this. It can't be that. You got to give me some substance here. And I hope that this stuff, the good news is this. When Trump does an address from the Oval Office or wherever, he stays on script because he has no audience. He's kind of like the class clown, where the class clown, if he doesn't have an audience, is not going to be a clown. The class clown, when he's sitting in detention after school, just sits there because there's no one to entertain. But when the class clown is sitting in the back row and he's got a willing audience around him, he starts goofing off. Trump won't have an audience tonight. I mean, he will have a big audience, but it's going to be on TV and on radio, and, you're going to listen to it here on KCMO at 8 p.m. if you want, if you're driving around at night. So you'll hear it here, but it's not going to be a rally, right? He's not going to have, his people behind him and chanting and cheering and doing that whole thing. So hopefully he stays to the script, and hopefully his guy, what's that speechwriter that he shot out a couple of weeks? What's his name?
Worthington.
Ross Worthington?
Ross, where is he?
Where's Ross?
I'm looking for Ross.
Is there a better name for a speechwriter than Ross Worthington? That's an all-time speechwriter name. He just needs a front initial, J. Ross Worthington or something like that is what he needs. If you're looking for a speechwriter, you're looking for someone named Ross Worthington. That's outstanding. So Ross hopefully is going to write a good speech. Hopefully Trump will stick to the script, and hopefully he'll talk about some of these things that I'm telling you right now that does signal things are trending in the right direction. 913-408-7957, the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're always streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app as we take you up until 10 o'clock. Keatsman Uncanceled is coming up then. Do not miss that. Now, on the money front, I saw this from People magazine yesterday. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, who, of course, finds himself in a world of trouble right now. He's been charged in the death of both of his parents. There's obviously a massive estate that was left behind by Rob and Michelle. People magazine is reporting here that Rob Reiner's son, Nick, could be ineligible for inheritance because of the Slayer statute. You don't say. I mean, no kidding. California has what's called a Slayer statute, which says that if you kill someone that you're going to inherit from, you lose your inheritance and any right to serve as a fiduciary of the estate. So assuming Nick is convicted of this murder, he's out as a beneficiary, along with any fiduciary appointments he may have. Well, good. I mean, that's kind of like stating the obvious, a no-brainer. But it notes here, a fiduciary appointment is an executor, a trustee, or, if they died without a will, which is probably unlikely, an administrator. So he will be out. I mean, Nick has much bigger problems right now in his hands. But, when I saw that, I said every state should have. I mean, California's got plenty of bad laws, but that's a no-brainer law to obviously have.
Seems so, and probably not his motivation in the first place.
No. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that's the case.
I know you weren't.
But, definitely. I mean, you clearly have someone who is beyond mentally unstable. And there were new reports from TMZ yesterday that he was at Conan O'Brien's party on Saturday night and was acting like he was just drugged out. He was dressed inappropriately. He was acting weird.
Just kind of hovering over conversations, and people would say, hey, I'm kind of talking here, and he'd be glaring at him.
Yeah. I mean, just a total wacko. And he is due in court today. So obviously that story will get a lot of attention with Nick Reiner.